Fast Forward Productions. The women are speaking.
When you got there in the morning, you had to write your name, sign your name, and write what time you got there in the morning. Our workday started at 8:30 in the morning, and you had a black pen until 8:25. It changed to a red pen so that they could see who was coming in right at the last 5 minutes. And then at exactly 8:30, it was brought into the CEO's office, where if you were even 1 minute late, you had to go into his office to sign your name. It was beyond strange. Hello, and welcome back to Below 14th Street. I'm your host, Ashley Pollard, and this is our little micro segment of the Unfiltered Entrepreneur, where I tell you some crazy, fun, cool, educational stories from my 10 years of fashion industry experience in New York City. Today's story is a little different than past ones because some of them are just debaucherous, breaking into Fashion Week and stalking someone who worked at Vogue and the Nicki Minaj dress situation. But today's episode is actually quite a decent lesson in leadership because I worked somewhere so fucked up that I will not name the name. I'm not even sure if I kept them on my resume or if it's even available on my LinkedIn, but this company is a very well-known household name. I would argue every person listening to this podcast has heard of this brand. Multi-million dollar company. And I was hired to expand the business outside of their core offering into new departments. I had made a decent reputation for myself in a positive way of the way that I had impacted the industry and the different techniques that I used to grow businesses in the fashion industry. And so I was excited to join this brand and help it expand. I had a proven method and I was excited to do it for them. You guys will never... I'm already laughing because the way that we were treated was like prison. Okay. So I'm going to just give you a few examples, but it just kind of goes to show how far feminism has to go, but also like how badly some people are treated in different industries. The fashion industry is definitely one of those places that if you work for a big brand, there's a lot of pressure about like everyone wants to work here. You're expendable. Like we could kick you out tomorrow and we'll be perfectly fine. There was only a couple places that I was actually like told that. And then other places that you could just feel it. You felt the pressure of like, who's winning here? Am I getting more out of this or are they getting more out of this? This brand particularly knew how big they were and knew how long the line out the door was to work for them because they're trendy, they're cool, people love them. There's ads for them everywhere. Very, very, very good positive reputation for this brand. One that I was excited about, right? I was excited to be there. And then you start and there was this very culty vibe. It was very interesting because working there, some of us thought it was fucking weird and other people ate it up. This culture of obsession for the brand. It was beyond creepy. There was also like this weird perfection of women expectation. And the people who ran the business from the top down, and I'm getting there. I know that you guys think I'm tiptoeing around it, but I'm laying the land. The people at the top were these like buttoned up suit white men. The generalizations are there for a reason. And there are rules for the people who worked at this business. Like, thank God I only stayed for like a few weeks because I was like, I'm not fucking doing this shit. Their expectations were so antiquated. For instance, we were required to wear 2.5-inch heels. We were required to have curled hair or straight hair that was like perfectly straight. We had to have a full face of makeup. And what's interesting is that looking back, I'm like, how would they have dictated what a full face is? Like, I wonder what they would have said if I didn't wear enough blush one day. I don't know. We had to dress quote unquote super trendy. I remember that super trendy. I remember that being like a buzzword. We had to stay at work until 8 p.m. unless we could show that we were going to a workout class. So you could leave work at 5 or 6 if you were going to work out. But if you weren't working out, you had to stay there till 8. Interesting. In the fashion industry, in New York in general, there's a lot of like going out and grabbing lunch and eating at your desk. It's a very fast world. And if you were eating at your desk anything that wasn't a salad, you were kind of like asked about it. Oh, what did you order today? Oh, a sandwich? It was just like very weird. That is not typically how the fashion industry runs. It's very smart women who are pushing the industry forward. This was not my standard experience. But there's one thing that I'll never forget that was just beyond strange to me. For a long time, I would think about this and think, were they justified? Does this make sense? Does this not make sense? I've jumped through so many different hoops to try to see if I can figure out a way to rationalize this, and I have not successfully done so. It is beyond weird to me. It will stay beyond weird to me. So the building that we worked in was a corporate building, and I'm talking 50, 60 floors, a big building. And we were relatively high up, which doesn't really matter, but we have like a doorman and a key card that you scan into the whole thing. Typically, when you go to work, you're there. Let's say the workday starts at 8:30. Some days you might get there at 8. Some days you might get there at 8:15. Some days you might get there at 8:40 because you're 10 minutes late, or 8:35, especially living in New York City where the subway has delays more than anything in the world and is so frustrating. But you're adults. We were adult women who could manage the calendar. You know, if I had a meeting, I was going to be there early. If I had a meeting, I was going to be there on time to prep for it. I honored my job. If I was running late, it wasn't because I overslept because I was partying too much the night before. When I had started working for this company, I had been in the fashion industry for maybe 7 or 8 years. So it was not just like a job that paid the bills anymore. It was truly a career that I was building for myself and really focusing on that effort. And it was just so crazy to me because this business of like respected women who were so smart are told to like dress up like dolls, in essence, for the men who ran the company. But then, this is the wild part. When you came into the office, you had to write your name. When you started with the company, actually, you had to sign a piece of paper and write your name so that they had like proof of what your handwriting was like. I'm not making it up. When you got there in the morning, you had to write your name, sign your name, and write what time you got there in the morning. Our workday started at 8:30 in the morning, and you had a black pen until 8:25. It changed to a red pen so that they could see who was coming in right at the last 5 minutes. And then at exactly 8:30, it was brought into the CEO's office, where if you were even 1 minute late, you had to go into his office to sign your name. It was beyond strange. And there were times that I had some friends in the company, friends of ours, who thought that this was strange behavior, where we would play little, tricks. I remember that we got to know the doorman really well. So if I was running late, I would throw my bag under the doorman's entryway, table, bench, whatever you want to call it. And I would run upstairs as if I had been there. And my friend would like write my name in for me. And we used to do things like that. And I never got in trouble about my handwriting being different. I quit that place so fucking fast. I was like, I'm not doing this. But I remember they had told me, some friends of mine who stayed had told me about times that they would have meetings with people and they would say, your handwriting isn't matching up. So who's signing in for you? Because both of you are now in trouble. Imagine being a 28-year-old woman being told, hey, by the way, we're entrusting you to run $20 million worth of business, $100 million worth of business, but we need you to sign your name with a specific colored pen when you get in the morning. It was beyond weird. It was gross. I mean, the place itself was just so gross. And there were women who were just eating it up. And whenever the C-suite of men would walk around, they'd be like, hi, and like twirl their hair around their finger. And if someone complimented them, they'd be like, oh my God, they said I looked cute today. And it's like, ew, this place is so creepy. I gotta get the fuck out of here. I hated it so much. There was also this really weird rule that you could get a corporate card if you were going to trendy places and you would wear the brand head to toe. So for instance, I could say, hey, it's my birthday and I want to take 10 of my friends to dinner at this really expensive restaurant downtown. And I'm going to be wearing, I almost said it, this brand head to toe. And I will get some of my friends to wear some of the brand as well with some of the samples that we have in the closet if you guys will cover dinner. And they'll say, oh my God, absolutely. Make sure everybody's posting about it, which to a point can be smart. But the way that they handled it was very much like, if you're one of us, we only go out below 14th Street, which is where I got the title of this podcast miniseries. We only go out below 14th Street. We only go to these restaurants. It was a list of like 30 different restaurants, which in New York is not a lot of restaurants. We only hang out with these types of people. Like I said, me and the friends that I had made there were very creeped out by this. I was the person where I was like, well, then I'm not going to go out with the corporate card. Like, I'd rather just spend my own money and hang out with my own friends who might not be in finance or fashion or real estate and go wherever I want to go. And then there were other people who worked there that were like, okay, like I won't be friends with them anymore. And I'll only go there because I want to be one of like us and I want to be one of the cool girls here. It was foul. But the other thing that was weird is that if you played into this whole concept and you were just like living for it and like loving their compliments and going out where they told you to and hanging out who they wanted you to hang out with, they would put you on private planes and let you travel to Paris with them and go to Palm Beach and Miami and LA. And anytime they were going on these like big trips, you could go and maybe you'd have a private jet. Maybe you'd have a Chanel bag on your desk one day. Maybe you would get a $5,000 bonus out of nowhere. It was beyond creepy. Thankfully, it was the only time I'd ever seen this in the fashion industry. I've never heard of another brand acting this way. But to this day, when I see people talking about this brand, adoring this brand, loving it, promoting it, I literally just want to vomit everywhere because I just have such a disgust for the culture that they had. And what's crazy is that when I started, the HR team said, this is a very tough environment. And I was like, girl, I know tough environments, okay? I've been responsible for major pressure, huge sales KPIs I have to hit. I think I know a little bit about a tough work environment. I've had rough bosses. I've had tons of pressure. I've had last minute work. I've had to work till 10 and come in on weekends. Like I'm not worried about it. This was definitely not what I expected. So I pieced out. I literally walked out of the company, called my headhunter and said, I need a new job. And she said, great, I have an interview for you in 20 minutes. And I said, adios, muchacho. And I left. So that is just a reminder that just because people are obsessing over what you're doing doesn't always mean you're making the right decision, and that people talk. Because I know a lot of people still talk about that place. And I know a lot of people are saying some bad shit about that place. And every once in a while, I wonder, when am I going to see that name in a headline somewhere? Because it was not a healthy work environment at all. So don't think that you're allowed to make mistakes for a long time. And don't think that this control aspect will actually motivate people to work with you, because the good ones need the space to operate and work the way that they want to. I'll leave that with you, and I will see you guys next time on hopefully a more uplifting episode of Below 14th Street, because I've got some other fun stories up my sleeve, but I thought this one was worth telling too. I'll see you guys next time. Before we go, there's a couple things I want you to remember on these episodes. I'm obviously all about helpful information and telling stories about my life. And part of being a human telling her story means that even though I'm trying my best, my memory may not always be serving me perfectly. Some facts in here might end up being inaccurate or changed or incorrect. If I get a date wrong or a specific place where I was at, just know that I'm doing my best to recall from memory and piecing these stories together from you. There's also some cases where I may have changed a name or something that can refer back to a specific person so that I don't cause controversy with someone or a brand, and make sure that everybody is protected. Doesn't change the point of these stories. They're all still my own, and these are all actual experiences from my life. So the stories themselves are not fabricated. They're just maybe some details that maybe I got wrong from memory, or maybe that I'm trying to cover up so that everybody who listens feels protected and we can laugh and enjoy ourselves. Thank you for listening.